Living in the Past is a Turtle, Mysteries of Azeroth, and Everlook Broadcasting production. This is Living in the Past, your Everlook Broadcasting Company weekly show about all things Turtle Mysteries of Azeroth. Today is Friday, January 5th, 2024, and I'm Dan, your host for the next hour. We are in the first show of the new year, 2024. It feels like almost waking up, like we're having to get back into the swing of things. Certainly, there have been a lot of announcements over the last week or so. The slow trickle of information about what could be the new raid coming out. We speculated on it last week with Grim Batol, but we'll be looking at a little bit more here today, or at least celebrating the fact that we have something to really examine. But it's almost like we're getting back into a new year, and we're just waking up, or just really springing back into it. I'm still a little low energy myself from the holidays. I'm trying to, get it back going here a little bit, but it certainly feels a little sluggish to start the year off, as it is. What isn't sluggish though is something I've noticed here on Turtle over the last week or so. We're getting. And maybe this is just me, but it feels like we've been getting a little bit of an influx of new players. A lot of people asking questions, a lot of people trying to figure out good ways to get things started on the server. And whether or not you're a veteran private server player, whether or not you've played on other private servers before, or even if you've played Classic WoW or Vanilla WoW or World of Warcraft in general before, every new server really is that new experience. And the reason I bring this up, there's a couple reasons, but I've certainly noticed an influx of people asking questions about trying to figure things out, about new people in queues to get some of those early instances done. I rolled a new shaman the other week, and I've been slowly just working on him on the side when I've had a little bit of free time. Ended up trying to do just a regular old RFC the other night. Literally nothing to stress about. But a lot of the group members there very much didn't really have an idea of not only how to play their class, as minimal as you need for RFC, because essentially you go in and you smack things with a stick and the instance falls over. But this was a situation where people didn't realize that threat was a mechanic, or they didn't really put together that, okay, the healer needed to actually do healing. They didn't really connect that dot. And that's not to say they're bad in any way. It's a different level of experience, especially if you're not even aware of World of Warcraft in general, and you're just trying it out, and you decided, okay, Turtle's the place I'm going to try it out at. You don't know these things. And I think this is because a lot of Turtle is made up of very veteran players. Like, there are people who hit Naxxramas every week who could explain to you the in-depth mechanics of how hit rating functions and make it sound casual. A lot of us kind of take that for granted, that we are surrounded by some of the best vanilla and classic players in the world on this server. And that's something that we should take pride in. But then we need to also make sure we include people who are new, people who are just trying this out for the first time, people who are just starting to explore vanilla or classic content, or even just private servers in any way. So I've certainly noticed that there has been an influx of that, and I hope that people, keep trying at it. Certainly, those kinds of situations, especially if you go into an instance and people don't know what they're doing, wiping multiple times in RFC is not normal. But certainly it is indicative of people needing to learn some things to finish their class up and make those next steps to actually being a functional player. I say that like it sounds bad. It doesn't sound bad, but it's important to respect where people's experience levels are. So hopefully people keep trying at it. If you're new to the server, welcome. Make sure to check the forums out. There's a lot of good resources on the forums. Unfortunately, there isn't a ton of good video resources. There are a few people who stream on Twitch or YouTube from Turtle. There's not many. Unfortunately, there isn't many. In actual YouTube content, Vrograg obviously is the biggest source of information over on YouTube. Turtle WoW has its own YouTube that you can look up some information on, but it's really not like designed for new players. Neither is Vrograg either, to be honest. It's more about news and information updates. Unfortunately, I don't really know of video content that could help out newer players, and it's something I've kind of been scratching my brain on for the last few days. Of okay, so we're seeing an influx of new players. How do we provide them some easy to digest video resources? Because as many forum posts or as many information posts, you can go to Icy Veins or something and look up information, but it doesn't put it into context of, I'm a new player, how do I do this? So this has been something I've actually been thinking on this week, which is how do we actually help newer players, or whether they're new to Turtle or new to the overall vanilla environment. And that's kind of the question I've been asking myself. And I don't feel like there's a good answer right now, which that's not a great feeling. That's not a great feeling of, well, unless you have someone holding your hand and teaching you, good luck. That doesn't feel great. So that's a kind of a question I might be talking to the Everlook team to see, is there a way we can put a resource like that together? That might be something we look at. Maybe. We'll see. It's technically not in the Everlook Radio wheelhouse at all. We try to keep it in character and in universe as much as possible. Outside of this, hi, hello, I'm breaking the fourth wall, as usual. But it's something I want us to consider, if that makes sense. So, just a thought that I've had. But again, if you are new to the server, you're listening to this show for the first time, or you just found the Everlook Broadcasting YouTube page, and you're watching through these episodes, again, welcome. We're happy to have you here. There is a bit of a learning curve with this. Turtle is definitely a more of an advanced skill set server, where you do really need to know what you're doing to succeed into late game. But just something to keep in mind. Maybe we need resources to help newer players. We'll see. But that was a first thought that I wanted to make sure I got out of my brain as we're starting up here. And a big thing about this is knowing how to define your role in the greater scheme of things. So again, saying, hey, I'm a warrior, I am tanking here. This seems like something that a lot of people actually struggle with. And I'm not exactly sure why, but so let's say you are a druid. You're level, 15, level 20. You really don't have a solid DPS option at the time. Being aware enough to say, okay, right now at least, I have to make a choice of either I'm tanking or I'm healing. And certainly there are people who stretch outside that box and still DPS at a very early stage of the character, but having that awareness, I think, is a real struggle point for newer players. Again, thoughts that I've had in my head this week that I needed to get out. Unfortunately, sometimes you all are you all are the ones that I get my WoW thoughts out to. Just as this is the people I talk. These are the people I talk to about these things. So you all, unfortunately, are the ones that get to experience my WoW brain thoughts. Going back to a previous topic, though, that I briefly skimmed over as I was opening the show up. Vrograg Fishlayer, has pointed out earlier this week that the lore nerds, and I consider myself one of them, are absolutely going bonkers over Grim Batol. And I love it. I love it so much. This has opened up so many questions as to what the state of the world is in. Because, again, and I discussed this in the last episode, we know kind of what happened with Grim Batol in the terms of the classic, the retail storyline. Taken over by Twilight's Hammer, used as a bastion of, okay, we're doing bad things, and then we go in and we solve problems. We don't know what even the monster tile sets are going to be. What kind of creatures we're going to be experiencing when we go into Grim Batol. Which is mind-blowing to say, we don't know what's going on somewhere. That's massive. That's huge. I feel like we're going to get a lot of that whenever what happens with Quel'Thalas also happens. I don't know how many of you have gone through and talked to a lot of the NPCs in the new High Elf area. Obviously, the capital was already there, but it's been expanded. There's also a whole new starting zone, obviously, for High Elves. If you go and talk to a lot of the NPCs in the new parts of the High Elf capital, a lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot of them, some of them keep talking about Quel'Thalas and what's in there. And some of that conversation does kind of lean towards, well, what are we doing about taking it back? And the tease on that, the suggestion that we go and break through the ruined elf gates of Quel'Thalas and retake the elf homeland. Like, if Grim Batol is sending us, is driving us lore nerds this far up a wall, how ridiculous would it be if Turtle announced, hey, okay, so Grim Batol went well, we're going to give you Quel'Thalas. So not only do we have a city to see, a ruined city to siege, and tons of undead probably, to kill, but we have to deal with the Blood Elves. We have to sack a city. There's a whole new can of worms. Like, not just mechanically or trying to, figure out how a raid like that would work. We can't just do Ulduar 2.0 here. I didn't like Ulduar that much. There's so much to consider when it comes to setting up these kinds of raids. It's ridiculous. So the moment that, we finally get to dive into Grim Batol, figure out what is actually going on, see the monsters, see the story, see the loot. Because in vanilla, unlike later expansions, I'll say, in vanilla and TBC and Wrath in particular, the loot really told some very serious stories. The loot was a part of the world building. So seeing the loot drops out of some of these locations is going to tell us so much. So much. I think not just raiders are excited for that kind of thing. It's us lore nerds as well, because we get to take all the little puzzle pieces of, oh, well, this piece of this information is saying this, and okay, this loot drop is from this person who did this over here, and we get to take all these stupid little pieces and put them together and try to figure out the greater story. So obviously, not only do I hope that Grim Batol is an incredible experience, I hope it is just an absolute spider web of information. I hope it's so much fun. But I hope we see this with other potential raids. I hope that we do go in and get to see Quel'Tha Loss. Whether it's as a singular raid, or as an event, or as a piecemeal of many different things. Maybe it's multiple instances or multiple raids. Whatever's going on with Upper Karazhan as well. Like, we know nothing about Upper Karazhan. And yet, all of us, well, I shouldn't say all of us, so many of us have gone through the rigmarole of getting the key for it. And getting the binding, which I still don't know what it's for. So many of us have done this stuff and we have no clue what it's for. But we did it because we can do it, which I think is part of the magic of Turtle. So everything else is just icing on the cake. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about what else we're going to be talking about today as we're closing out the first segment. I know I'm a little jumbled today. Like I said, warming back up, getting back into the swing of things after the holidays, so you'll have to excuse me. For our second segment here, coming up, I was able to get a really big info dump from the Chronicles of the Second War team. Now, if you don't know who they are, they're doing Chronicles of the Second War, which is they're not only remaking, but doing a full reconstruction of Warcraft 2 in the new Warcraft 3 Reforged engine. So you have to have Warcraft 3 Reforged to play it. However, it's a lot, and they've added so much to it. So we're going to talk about that in the second segment, and there's a lot to talk about there. And then, to close up, I have a couple of announcements here for our third segment. All good news. All very good news. And that'll close up the show for today. Now, with that being said, our music today. What are we playing for our music? I was in a bit of a 90s mood already going into 2024. There's just something that really lets me vibe when I'm listening to like that old pop punk or that old alternative from the 90s. So then Green Day specifically got into the news here in the United States, and I'm like, no, that settles it. We're bringing out some of that really good 90s grunge pop punk alternative for the day today. So for our first break here, we're going to crack open some Offspring and some Green Day. Offspring's Pretty Fly for a White Guy. And then Green Day's When I Come Around. I'm not going to be playing any of the hugely popular Green Day tracks from the more late 90s albums. I'm going to be digging a little bit deeper. In our second break, we're going to have Longview, if you recognize the song. And then third song for this first break, No Doubt's Don't Speak. Then coming up after this break, we're going to be talking Chronicles of the Second War. Look forward to that. I'm excited to delve into it. I have some criticisms, but I have a lot of what I love about it, and I hope you all are excited to share in that. More coming up here on Living in the Past right after this. The musical tracks for this episode have been removed due to YouTube copyright. To listen to the full episodes with music, tune in to Everlook Broadcasting every Friday with the in-game radio widget. Welcome back to Living in the Past with myself, Dan. It's good to have you here. For our second segment today, as I promised there during the end of the first segment, we're going to be talking about a project that is partially launching here that is a mod for Warcraft 3 Reforged. I wasn't a fan of Warcraft 3 Reforged, unfortunately. It didn't do a lot of good. However, there's a lot of folks out there doing some amazing good with it, and this is one of those groups. Now, the group that I'm talking about in particular is a group of people called Lorecraft Designs. They're at Lorecraft Mod on Twitter, and that's where you should go to get all the information on this. They passed me a few links, but the easiest link for me to get you all is at Lorecraft Designs. Or rather, Lorecraft Mod. At Lorecraft Mod on Twitter. Now, what is this project? What is Chronicles of the Second War? Thankfully enough, because I do pre-record these shows, I'd record them earlier in the day here. It's about 3:08 in the afternoon right now on Friday. So you're all going to hear this in about 2.5 hours. They were kind enough to send over a huge briefing with tons of information on this massive update for this mod. I don't know if I can even call it a mod anymore. This is a whole new game. Because what Chronicles of the Second War is not just a recreation of Warcraft 2 in the Warcraft 3 Reforged engine, but it's this whole new expansion on the idea of what happened during the Second War, during Warcraft 2. So we're going to dive into that here. I do have some criticisms of it. I do have my own thoughts, but overall, this is an incredible project, and they've done so much good to kind of take a look at and examine what was going on during the events of Warcraft 2. So, before I get into a lot of my personal thoughts, I'm just going to read verbatim the press release that they sent me for this. Chronicles of the Second War is an ambitious and dedicated project that aims to recreate the magic of the Warcraft 2 storylines and bring it into the modern age. As old fans of the original lore and setting, our focus is on bringing our vision of the narrative to life. Novels and WoW lore are used to give more depth to the story and the narrative as a whole. The project itself was inspired by the Chronicles books, but adds its own twists and turns to the narrative. Things like the conquest of Cosmodan will be shown in detailed gameplay and cutscenes, and so will other aspects of expanded Warcraft lore. We have given our own take on several central Warcraft characters and how we envisioned their interactions would be like. It is our hope that you will bond with these characters and their journey, just as we bonded with them while bringing them to life and giving their stories form. Now, this has been an ongoing project that's been building up over the last couple years here. I've heard tidbits and small pieces of information going forward, but this is their first major release. And when I say major, they just released today half of Warcraft 2. They released their Horde side of the campaign. For those of you who don't know, Warcraft 2 is divided into two sections: the Alliance campaign and the Horde campaign. What they launched today was the Horde campaign. So the Alliance campaign is still on the way. It's being worked on, but it's not ready yet. This is just the Horde campaign that was launched. Now, What does that mean in regards to not just the recreation of Warcraft 2, but the integration of a lot of Chronicles materials, as was mentioned in the press release, as well as their own additions. So we have the following stats to go over here. There are 17 missions in total, divided through 4 acts. There are also 3 secret missions. That's wonderful. I love that they hide stuff in there. Here's some good examples of the different regions that will be shown throughout this entire game. The Zuldare region, which they're calling Southern Lordaeron. That's something I quibble with just a little bit, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Dun Morogh and Cosmodan. Arathi Highlands. Wetlands, Tol Barad, and the Thandal Span. Blackrock Mountain. Hinterlands, Quel'Thalas, Zul-Aman, the Arathi forests, the Northlands, which is kind of the northern what Jaina Proudmoore during Warcraft, they're called the Northern Boroughs, I believe. The Red Ridge Mountains and Lordaeron, which is the Lordaeron Island in Lordaemer Lake. Now, the thing I quibble with the Zuldare region being used, that was used during Warcraft 2 during a mission briefing for the Horde. You're setting up a supply camp in the Zuldare region, and that's where your first invasion point's at. I'm not sure if the Zuldare region is correct though, because you have the South Shore region along that southern coastline that leads up towards and into Gilneas. It doesn't quite get there, but it's nearly there. And then you have the Hillsbrad foothills, which is that huge stretch of hilly and mountainous terrain that borders up against Alterac. Yeah, I forgot the name for half a second there. Goodness. I don't know exactly what they mean by the Zuldare region. Which they tag as Southern Lordaeron. So that I'm a little curious about. But of course, I haven't played it yet. I haven't played this new update. So I'm going to be excited to see what they mean with that. Zuldare, for those that don't know, is an island off the coast of Southern Lordaeron. There is a specific island called Zuldare. And from what I understand, that's where that first couple missions the third mission in particular for the Horde campaign of Warcraft 2 is set on. So I'm not sure what they mean exactly with Zuldare, but I'm curious. I'm very curious. Now, they say that there's roughly about 20 to 22 hours of gameplay for just this release, so just the Horde campaign. So that also, I want to know more. I'm going to try to spend some time on it this weekend. We'll see, but I'm excited. I'm excited for this. They do plan on releases being episodic, and the human campaign is up next. The human campaign is on the way, so keep that in mind. After that, we'll see where the team goes. I have been informed, and here's another really interesting part. Spooky was kind enough to talk to me about all this and provide all this information to me. He also let me know that during off time, during between workloads, the Chronicles team has been working on Warcraft 1. Now, it's not a major project like Warcraft 2 has been for them, but apparently they are working on converting Warcraft 1 to the Warcraft 3 Reforged engine, which has me stoked. I cannot wait to see what that has to offer. I'm almost more excited about that. I'm I'm excited for all of it, but that's really interesting. Now, more details. You will have not just one clan of orcs that are playable with this release. You have the Blackrock clan. You will also be able to play as the Blacktooth Grin clan. Many of you will recognize that as being the clan that Rendon Maim Blackhand took over after Doomhammer slaughtered their father. You'll also be able to play as the Storm Reaver clan and the Twilight's Hammer. You will also be able to play as the Dragon Maw. This makes total sense to me because a lot of people are going to be like, but where's the Warsong clan? Where's the Bleeding Hollow? Those were Warcraft 2's expansion clans. They're a lot of the more like I'm not gonna say like a lot of the more well known, but some of the more well known clans either weren't involved in the original Warcraft 2 or were only involved in the expansion for Warcraft 2. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Keep that in mind. They also included a lot of different opposing forces. And I feel like this is a little bit of a tease for some of the playable factions for their Alliance campaign release for Chronicles, but you will face Lordaeron, obviously, Stromgarde, Dalaran, Azeroth, which is Stormwind, using the proper nation name. You'll also face the High Elves of Quel'Thalas, Ironforge, Warhammer, and the Dark Iron clan. So they're going into very specific detail with this campaign, and it makes me so happy to see. Once again, head over to Twitter at LoreCraftMod. They are also, obviously, on Hive Workshop. If you look up Chronicles of the Second War, you'll see their Tides of Darkness update. And that is the Horde campaign for Warcraft 2. Again, that's Hive Workshop. Look up Chronicles of the Second War. The lore nerd in me is so excited to see what this campaign actually has to offer. It's not perfect, obviously. It's a fan creation. I don't agree with all of the choices that were made, at least for a lot of the preview material. But I have a very strict interpretation of Warcraft 2. And the inclusion of Chronicles material generally goes beyond what I like to consider. So I'm excited to see how they interpreted it. Hopefully you all check this out. Again, thank you to the whole team over there for providing me all this information ahead of time. They didn't have to. They were kind enough to do so. And hopefully you all go and check out Chronicles here. That's probably how I'm going to spend a good chunk of my weekend. Now, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and get to our second break of the evening. We're sticking with the 90s pop, punk, grunge, alternative kind of vibe here. This is a lot more of my personal picks for them. I'm not staying in one genre exactly, but hopefully you appreciate the vibe. Our second break here, we're going to have the Cranberries with Zombie. They're easily the best known song. That other Green Day song I was mentioning, Longview. And again, staying in the more early Green Day, more grungy kind of vibe. And then lastly, Goldfinger's Superman, which if anyone played any of the Tony Hawk games, you're going to recognize instantly. It was an absolute staple for it. When we come back, just a little bit of house cleaning. My voice is starting to run down a little faster than I wanted. Hopefully you don't hear that too much, but I can definitely feel it. So we're going to go ahead, do a little house cleaning, and then close it up for the evening for our first show of 2024. More Living in the Past with myself, Dan, when we come back right after this. The musical tracks for this episode have been removed due to YouTube copyright. To listen to the full episodes with music, tune in to Everlook Broadcasting every Friday with the in-game radio widget. Welcome back to the final segment of Living in the Past here for this January 5th. I almost said June 5th. Nope, not yet. Few months ahead on that one. Last show, or rather first show, for the new year. We have a few minutes left here. Unfortunately, my voice is getting a little rough, so we're going to try and make it brief on this one. But, quick reminder here, we're in the last few hours of the Turtle Store sale. So if you're looking to get things on a heavy discount, now is the time to actually go through with those purchases. Make sure you grab those when you are able. There's still some time. Take advantage of it while you can. Also, very good news on the trivia night front. We are going to be having regular trivia nights here once a month. The next one is going to be towards the end of January. I need to confirm a date with Acalix, and then we're going to actually get a notification up on the Discord so people can actually schedule for it. And thankfully enough, I did figure out the mic audio issue that I was having with the software we use for live production. Again, this is technically pre-recorded the day of, so it's a different piece of software that we use to actually connect to the relay live. But with that being said, the good news is I figured out why my mic was being choppy in that. So we are going to be having regular trivia nights, hopefully with prizes here, starting up later this month. So look forward to that. There will be a date and time specified over on the Discord so you can plan for it. And then we will once again be using the Trivia Night channel in-game for answers. So be ready for that. I'm not saying the subjects yet. I might say what subjects are going to be used ahead of time. Obviously, I'm not going to give the questions out ahead of time, but maybe I give out the subjects for the questions ahead of time so you all can look into what you can, lore-wise and history-wise, before the actual event itself. Next week on Living in the Past, I want to try and get an interview talking about some class and character changes that are being planned for Turtle. One big thing that I was unfortunately a little disappointed with last year was the alternative tier sets not being included in the patch, and that was due to other class and character changes that need to be processed before you can consider the set bonuses for those. So I would like to get an interview next week with one of the staff talking about those changes, where we are for the alternative tier sets and those class and character changes we need to get done first, and give us a better timeline of when and how that's happening. I don't know if that interview is going to happen. Maybe it's going to be a week after next week kind of thing, but I'm going to be pushing for that coming up here. Otherwise, look forward to the trivia night. Also, if you haven't gone over to the Everlook Broadcasting Company YouTube page yet, please consider doing so. We're Everlook Broadcasting over on YouTube. Feel free to look us up. Up through mid-December, I believe. I think episodes from Living in the Past are up through mid-December. We will also be doing the lore books when the staff have time to actually render those videos for us. So keep that in mind. But all of our archives live up there now. They are available for you as you'd like. And thank you if you've already gone and watched through those, or listened through those rather, and subscribed to that channel. With that being said, my voice is really starting to go here, so we're going to go ahead and cut the show there. But I want to thank you for taking the time to join me today. Our nostalgia continues even though today's broadcast is at an end. And I hope you enjoyed the show here today. A huge thank you to the Turtle developers, moderators, staff, and volunteers. Without the entire team's hard work and dedication, we wouldn't have this station or server group. An additional thank you to the audio engineers and creators here for the use of their soundtracks that they've created, which we use for segment transitions and intro audio. If you'd like to find out more about what I do, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/TheDanNation and my series, Ancient Lore, a recapture of the spirit of my original podcast, The Ancient of Lore. Until next Friday, let's keep living in the past.